As the year comes to an end and the holidays pass, yearly wrap-ups for platforms such as Steam, Spotify, and Goodreads begin to come out. And every year, the online book community tends to share their reading goals for the year and how many books they ended up reading. And every year, people argue over it, rehashing the same stupid arguments over and over, incapable of learning from the previous years. The classic reading goal argument. Hello, I know this isn't exactly an art-related topic, but I still want to talk about it, and you guys voted for it, so now you gotta deal with it. You all definitely know what BookTok is, but just in case there's someone unaware of this hellscape, BookTok is the online book community specifically revolving around TikTok. A space meant to be for readers to find each other and bond over their shared interest in books. The keyword meant, as instead it's mostly just full of different readers fighting over who's better. Dark romance readers sharing the rape fetish on their 13+ app, romantasy readers having a weird trend of promoting books that always have some barely 18-year-old girl getting with some multi-hundred or even 1,000-year-old man. Dark romance readers mass sexually harassing a 16-year-old boy who was just trying to post himself on his motorcycle because he happened to remind them of their fictional stalker love interest. Classic readers and nonfiction readers both having major superiority complexes and arguing that no other genre is valid, and the list goes on. Before this causes any readers to click off, I promise I do not care what you read. I do not judge people based off of the genre they read. These are just some quick examples of common BookTok discourses I have seen. If you don't know what the reading goal argument is, it's basically just people arguing over whether reading 100 books in a year for your reading goal is actually doable, or if the people reading this much are just performative. Along with several other arguments all revolving around how many books someone manages to read in a year. Someone please take the BookTok community out back and put it out of its misery. So since I'm bored and my feed keeps filling with people arguing over this, why not throw my own 2 cents in here? Personally, I like to read from a variety of genres, from classic literature, nonfiction and horror, to fantasy and dystopian. I also personally had the goal of 100 books to be read within 2025, although I unfortunately only got 50 books read. So that's also part of why I wanted to talk about this topic. It's an argument I end up seeing every year, with countless videos filling my feed about the topic, and everyone's hot takes that totally aren't just the same old regurgitated takes from last year and the year before that and the year before that, and so on and so forth. Before getting into the video, I just want to say I recently got a VGen code, so I now have art commissions open if you want to support me. The videos I post here on YouTube are not monetized, and I don't make any money from them, so if you like my art and want to support me, checking out my commissions is a great way to do so. Anyways, what started this year's round of reading goal controversy was a post a woman made on Twitter, showing herself standing next to all the books she read during the year, with her count being 120. The books next to her were mostly fiction books, ranging from multiple genres of romance, fantasy, thrillers, stuff like that. This somehow sparked an outrage amongst Twitter users, many of them leaving comments arguing that the books were all just trashy fiction books and it would have been better if she read all non-fiction instead. With most fiction is slob being an actual comment someone made. There were also quite a few racist comments left as well, due to the original poster being a black woman. All in all, a lot of very disgusting things were said to a woman who only wanted to share the amount of books she read in a year. There were also other comments claiming that reading this much has to be overconsumption, and there's no way people can genuinely read that much while truly absorbing the material. My opinions on this, I believe, should just be common sense. The takes of who gives a fuck what people read, fiction versus non-fiction doesn't matter, and don't be racist, basically summing it up. Things people have said over and over again, I know, but I still want to look deeper into this as it helps show an overarching issue within the online book community. Before I do that, however, there are a few examples I'd like to show. Examples I hope further demonstrate that this issue is not a mere one-off issue. There was another video that went somewhat viral on TikTok, and while I won't show it for the sake of not causing any further harassment sent their way, I will summarize what they were saying.
And for my most controversial take on this app, let me just say, if you are an unemployed person, please do not give any of us on this app your take on, I read 100 books a year, it's possible. Baby, we know it's possible for you. You don't have a job. You don't clock in. Now, that being said, can an unemployed person and an employed person read 100 books? Yes. I'm not saying if you read 100 books, you're unemployed. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that if you know that you're unemployed and you read 100 books, maybe don't come on here telling other people, well, maybe if you just put down your phone, like you could read 100 books too. You could just do it by like getting off your phone and like spending less screen time. Baby, you're not clocking in ever. You don't clock in, period. Don't tell someone else that they can read the same amount of books as you if they like got off their phone. Like, I don't know. And I think It's when people don't preface their videos by saying, I read 130 books this year, by the way, I don't have a job. When you don't preface your video with that, people that are amazed by your ability to read so many books while having a job are like, how do you have time? And I think the question is like it's a genuine curiosity. And then you think that they don't believe you, but really they're just amazed by you, okay? And if you have a job, like, definitely give these people advice, for sure. Like, you know, but if you're unemployed, please don't respond saying, well, I get off my phone. Just respond and say, I don't have a job. That's why I can read that many books a year. They're both impressive, by the way, before you come at me. It's impressive to read 100 books a year, job or not. I'm just saying, like, people without a job, just step this one out, okay? I love you. I'll see you in the new year. I hope you read even more books next year, but like, this ain't the fight for you. This ain't the fight for you. Of course, this is only directed at the people who don't have a job, who are coming at people, like telling people, you just play on your phone all day and that's why you don't read 100 books like me. This is for that specific like subset of people. So if you're not in that set of people, I'm not talking about you, okay? Rest assured, rest easy. This is a small group of people. I'm sure you've seen them. You might not be them, but that's who I'm talking about, okay? Understand that if you don't have a job, like, you're at a significant advantage. Like, time is the most valuable asset, and the fact that you have so much of it compared to some other people does a lot for you. It does a lot for you. Like, I hate to say it, but you're not on equal playing grounds. And you have to, like, understand that when you tell people about your reading habits. Like, you just have to keep it in the back of your head. I don't know. We believe you. You're heard. Reading 100 books a year is possible. I'm out.
It was a video of a young woman ranting about people who talk about reading 100 books in a year, implying that the majority of them must be unemployed to have enough time to read that much. And saying that if they are indeed unemployed, then they don't deserve to talk about having read that much, as it's unfair to people who are employed and don't have time to read as much. While she does state she doesn't think it's impossible to read 100 books if you're employed, she still just assumes that the majority of the people posting about reading 100 books must be unemployed and that they're advised of spending more time reading and less time doom scrolling, therefore isn't valid due to their assumed unemployment. She does not give any actual examples of people posting about reading 100 books while being unemployed, and while searching for examples myself to see if this was an actual issue, I couldn't find any accounts that explicitly mentioned being unemployed. The majority of them being grown adults who don't talk about their job or lack thereof because their accounts are dedicated to their hobbies, not work. So we cannot just guess whether these people are unemployed or not. The rant then divulges into her going on and on about people who suggest getting off your phone to read more and how that advice isn't helpful and only works for other people if they're unemployed. Ending the video by saying that people who are unemployed need to emphasize that when they're mentioning how many books they've read and when giving advice on how others can do it too. A direct quote from the end of the video being, if you're unemployed, please don't respond saying, well, I just got off my phone. Please respond and just say, I don't have a job. That's why I was able to read that many books in a year. End quote. Once again, with no evidence that there's even a trend of unemployed people posting about reading 100 books a year in the first place. No examples, none I could even find going out of my way to search for it. And while sure, a rant doesn't exactly require sources or evidence, since it's just a rant, when you're making such a bold assumption and there's literally nothing to back it up, it's better to at least have something to support your side. Now, not to attempt any sort of psychoanalysis, but this truly does just scream projection to me, especially considering all the remarks specifically about getting off your phone, because regardless of your employment status, that is genuinely valid advice. Taking time away from other things in your free time to give yourself time to read is a helpful tip regardless of whether you have work or not, especially if you track your screen time and realize how many hours you could spend each week reading instead. Saying that if you're trying to read more, you can cut time out of other hobbies, such as doom scrolling, to make more time for reading is not some insane piece of advice that only applies to unemployed individuals. It sounds more like this individual simply didn't want this specific piece of advice and has decided to write it off in her mind by assuming it only works if you're unemployed, which, while it's totally fine not to like that advice, the real issue begins once you start projecting that feeling onto others and begin to tear down other people who did absolutely nothing wrong. Making these assumptions about their background with no evidence and putting these assumptions on blast for the world to see. This isn't the only example of someone pushing this idea either, as there was a comment left under a different video questioning people who read 100 books a year. This comment actually written by a writer of all people. And the comment read, "Don't get them riled up, they'll come for you. They are either 1, literally reading all the time versus any other hobby, 2, stay-at-home moms who audiobook a lot, 3. Students. 4. Jobless. 5. Neglecting something in their lives, end quote. There is more in this comment, but I'll just summarize it because I didn't want to write the whole thing down when writing the script. They basically just continue to say it's impossible to read 100 books in a year while having an actual life. Before I even start, I just want to say the subtle dig at stay-at-home moms and audiobooks is weird to me. Although most of what I said before applies here too, coming to these random conclusions about people based on how many books they read, and then trying to use that to brush off how hard they work to hit that goal is just weird. You not being able to read 100 books in a year doesn't mean everyone who does it must not have an actual life. Some people just really like reading. And instead of trying to find some excuse to invalidate them and make yourself feel better, maybe you should just be happy for them. Surprise, surprise, there's one more example that actually helps lead me to my main point, I swear, then I'll start explaining what the overarching issue throughout all these is. Another TikTok which has since been deleted, so I can only really quote the bits that people have stitched.
I'm not sure which BookTok girlies need to hear it, but nobody cares that you read over 100 books this year. In fact, when you tell me that, I'm like side-eyeing you because I'm not really sure what the flex is.
But it was basically this woman going on about how it doesn't matter if you've read 100 books in a year, with a direct quote being, "Nobody cares that you read over 100 books this year," end quote, followed by her stating that she actually side-eyes people who say they've read that many books a year because she isn't sure what the flex is and doesn't think it matters. I genuinely don't see a point in making a post like that in the first place, because if you're tired of seeing people spreading their reading goal, there's this little feature on TikTok where if you hold down on a video, you can press this magical little button that says "not interested," which will result in TikTok showing you less of that content. The mere fact that literally every single year this topic becomes a massive topic on several platforms alone proves that her statement about nobody caring is inaccurate. People clearly do care, and even if they didn't, there's nothing wrong with being proud of yourself and wanting to share that feeling. After spending 4 whole pages worth of the script just sharing these examples, you may already be putting together the pattern I put together looking through this, but if you haven't, hear me out. The online book community as a whole has always been very hostile. Not only is there hostility from the outside towards the online book space, but there's internal hostility as well, with the members of the community often tearing each other down over the most minute issues. However, this specific discourse helps highlight one of the sources of this hostility: projection and insecurity.
You had one job. One! Keep him in the dark and kill him if he got too close.
That's 2 jobs.
The people of the online book community have always been obsessed with superiority, whether it's arguing over which genre is better, page count, reading speed, or yearly reading goals. It all boils down to the exact same thing every single time: proving who's the superior reader. And when they perceive someone who may be better than them, quotations, they immediately do everything they can to excuse it or argue that the person isn't actually as much of a reader as they seem. Whether it's arguing their genre isn't valid, the book isn't long enough, the books aren't old enough, or that they're reading too much to be genuinely reading, they will always find a way to criticize other people for merely reading. Instead of just admitting that there are people out there who can read over 100 books in a year, people find it much easier to brush this off, because otherwise, why can't they read that much too? That's the question they ask themselves. It's easier to pretend people who read more must just be lifeless than admit that different people read different amounts. Instead of realizing that it's okay not to read 100 books in a year, they immediately begin excusing it as impossible for them, and that's the only reason they don't do it. Instead of realizing you don't need some big excuse for yourself or to insist that people who've done it must be cheating in some way, you can just say that you don't want to or don't have time to read that many books in a year. Hell, you don't need a reading goal at all. Just read what you want when you want. In an era where the literacy rates are on a massive decline, with 54% of American adults reading below a 6th grade level, 40% of American students incapable of reading beyond a basic level, and 40% of American adults reading exactly 0 books a year, it is beyond amazing to see people dedicated to reading 100 books in a year. Even without these statistics, you can already see the active decline in media literacy and critical thinking if you spend any amount of time interacting with other people, especially online. things like bean soup theory, or people just not understanding things unless it's very explicitly stated for them. Even then, they may not get it. The amount of people in the world who need every little thing spelled out for them to understand is genuinely concerning. And yet we focus on complaining about people who read too much. There is no such thing as reading too much. You cannot overconsume literature, something that objectively helps your brain learn and grow. Reading is such an important skill to have, especially in an age where we're facing such low literacy rates. Reading is not just about exploring a fun story. It helps your ability to take in and analyze media, to learn about different perspectives, to stay educated. This is no longer just petty book talk drama. People are actively discouraging reading and learning because of their own insecurity, which should never be happening. When a community entirely revolved around reading is actively discouraging reading, that's when you know you are fucked. This community is fucked. I'm sorry if this video felt a little more rushed. I have a lot going on in my personal life and I did not have as much time as I wanted to dedicate to the script, but I hope you enjoyed this and understood my main message. I'd also like to suggest checking out my 16+ Discord server, which has sections for all sort of creatives and actually has a whole section specifically dedicated to books. Please check it out if you can. I'm trying to get more active members and it's a great space for anyone interested in anything creative at all, whether it's art, writing, DIY, music, graphic design, or any other creative hobby. Thank you so much for watching and I hope you have a wonderful day or night.